finalized and going out tomorrow. And so I think this is an RFP that we're all very proud of. And kudos to the subcommittee for busting your brains and putting your time and effort into this. And so with that said, I would like to open up the platform to begin the listening session on behalf of the Tourism Board to the business community. And so, you know, if we want to go in a, I would say a roundabout way, but perhaps, let's see, Chris, did you want to interject or just go
sure,
right into?
I can do an intro. So
Okay.
just to kind of give the idea of the idea of this meeting was that we've been working on the RFP. We've been heads down on that, but we wanted the business community to know that we are very open to feedback. We're listening to what we can do to help you. We want to partner with you more closely. And so this call was really to hear ideas, concerns, thoughts, requirements, anything that we can do to help and to align us better. So that was the idea of the call, is just how can we serve you better? And I think the people from the tourism board are going to talk a little bit less, and we want to just get the feedback from various people in the business community.
Yes, thank you.
So to get things started, of course, it's always awkward in the beginning. How many people do we have on? 16? I don't want to take up too much time. Does it make sense to do very brief introductions, like not so much a long, but just like, hi, I'm so-and-so from this business?
Yeah, I know that would be helpful for me, at least.
So I'll just start, and then Calvin, why don't you just, because you get to see people on the screen, you can call people.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm Chris McManus, and I'm a member of the tourism board.
And so I'm Calvin. I'm the chairman of the tourism board, and I'm also the alderman in the 3rd ward.
Tamara, do you go?
She's on mute.
Is Tamara on mute?
I'm Tamar. I'm on the tourism board. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, I'm Tamar. I'm on the tourism board. My son is just getting here, but I'm fully here. I'm just going to be on mute so you don't hear both. Oh, please don't slam that. Okay, hi. Okay.
Chuck, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Chuck Rosenthal. I own Valley Variety on the 700 block, and I'm the president of the Hudson Business Coalition.
Great. Peg?
I'm Peg Patterson. I'm also on the board of HBC, and I have a shop on the 100 block on Warren Street.
Nice. Eric DeFeo?
Hi, I'm an independent consultant, but I'm primarily working on the Hudson Community Incubator right now. So I'm mostly dealing with new businesses to get off the ground.
Excellent. And Little Deb's Oasis.
There's 2 of us.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm Hannah Black, and I'm on the tourism board, but I'm also one of the owners of Little Deb's Oasis, and then Wheeler's here representing Little Deb's Oasis.
Awesome. Terrific. Chris Draghi.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a co-owner of Source-Sided Fragrances on 300 block, also on the HBC board.
Great. Mary Vaughn? Oh, you're on mute, Mary Vaughn.
Try that one again. I'm Mary Vaughn Williams, and I own Hudson Clothier, and I am on the HBC.
Excellent. Kristen?
I am trying to a cellular connection. God love mid-time cable. But I'm Kristen Keck. I am on the tourism board as well as the HBC, and I'm super.
Great. Thank.
Oh, Cindy's here.
Sydney, you're going to get an echo, so I'm going to. Sydney, are you on? Try it again, Sydney.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear.
I'm Sydney Long and I'm on the Hudson Tourism Board.
Excellent. Jonah? Hi,
Hello.
Jonah.
How is everyone today?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Great to see you. How are things?
We're just doing very quick intros.
Okay. Fantastic.
So Jonah is with the Hudson Eye, Jonah Beaucaire, choreography, and many other great projects.
Hello.
Carol, do you want to give an intro? Okay.
Okay.
Aaron?
Oh, I think we have Karen.
Aaron Levy-Garvey?
Hi, everyone. Yep, this is Aaron Levi-Garvey. I am the curator of the Hudson Eye and Jonah Beaucaire Arts Foundation.
Excellent. John Kane?
Hi, I'm John Kane. I am a Hudson City resident. I've been working with the HTC Hospitality Task Force to get businesses set up for a post-COVID reality. I was also the author of the Consumer Sentiment Survey that recently went out to Hudson residents.
Excellent. Alexandra?
Hey guys, I'm Alex Petralia. I'm a board member of the Hudson Business Coalition, formerly on the board of the Hudson Development Corp as well. I helped most recently the HTC with the Reimagine Hudson website, in addition to some various other surveys and initiatives.
Excellent. Is there anybody that we missed in the intros? Okay. So my suggestion would be that we kick it off. Is there anybody from the business community who would like to speak? Again, this is all about giving us your concerns, ideas, wishes. What can the tourism board do to better help you?
Well, Chris, I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, but this is Chuck. The HBC board had a call earlier in the week to kind of prepare for this. And what we were going through was sort of, and I can summarize, like the types of projects that we could see that would help the business community, some of which are ones that we're already taking on, and other ones are somewhat new. And then some other projects which we talked a little bit about in the meeting, the call that we had last week, that were ones that possibly the tourism board could take on directly and fund, or somehow work out a partnership arrangement with that. So I can just run through those and let you know, and then I think maybe other members of the HBC board and business can chime in, and then others. But the projects that we're currently feel would be really positive for Hudson during this time, one is already started, which is the Hudson Bonds program, which is a way of establishing a relief fund to provide grants to businesses for their immediate needs, as well as a longer term way of encouraging people to come to Hudson and to use their bonds that they purchase as a way of generating sales in business in all the local businesses. So it's both a way of helping businesses as way and a way of in the tourism purview of bringing people to, of encouraging people to come to Hudson and take advantage of the businesses in Hudson. And we've obviously already spent some money promoting it and the hard costs of printing the bonds and things like that. We would like to do a little bit of more additional advertising and promotion, and we feel like that's like a $2,500 budget. The other thing which you're probably most familiar with, the Hudson Business Coalition prints a printed walking guide, which we normally release around Memorial Day. We put it off at this time because of, it's print. So, you print it once and then it has to last. And we just felt with a lot of the uncertainties in terms of businesses and, what was going to happen post-COVID, it made sense to maybe put that off a little bit. But at some point in the near future, we do want to print that when we have a better idea. That's about a $6,800 budget. And then in the meantime, we did feel that what would be maybe helpful and a good resource would be sort of a digital version of the walking guide so that it could be constantly being updated. Now that, sort of before all of this happened, we had been considering revisiting visithudsonny.com and that website and how that's working. It's been live for a little over 2 years now. And we felt like, some changes needed to be done to that. And so in this light of this, we kind of were looking at, well, why don't we try to shift Visit Hudson to be more of a digital version of the printed guide? If we did get, the funding for that comes from membership. And if we were to get a grant, we could be more equitable and more allowing more businesses to be involved. It does currently represent all businesses, but businesses that pay for membership get more prominence, get the ability to post calendar listings. I know at last week's meeting, Adam talked about the calendar that they're trying to put together, and we've talked to him before, and there was always this problem that we're a paid membership model to post, and he's a free membership. But if we were to shift this to the funding coming more from tourism rather than from business membership, that would open up a lot of possibilities to be more inclusive of not just members. So that's something that we would really like to visit and talk to you more about. Obviously, a website project is, we did the first one, pretty bare bones on our own, but we would be looking for funding for that as well, and would have to really fine tune what the budget for that would be. So those are the three projects that would see as sort of strict, like solidly something that we would take on and would be looking to the tourism dollars to help fund. There's three other things that kind of came up at last week's meeting that it's kind of like, well, how does this get, like PPE for all the businesses that have to now have disposable gloves and masks and sanitizers and things like that? Should that be something that the city helps fund rather than each business having to go out and get their own? Hudson Hall did a lot of legwork with the HBC to source a lot of these materials. They did earlier this week go live on an ordering website. And so that is already in the works. I know that they had to front a certain amount of money to start getting the supplies in. So when orders came in, they'd be ready to be fulfilled. I haven't had a chance to speak with Tamir Sage at Hudson Hall to find out sort of what the total budgets are, but that's something that ideally, the city working with Hudson Hall, since they've done all the legwork, could be something that, if you choose to do that. The other types of support would be, that we talked about was portable restrooms and outdoor seating that would sort of alleviate the need for businesses to be making their bathrooms open to the public, which most of us do. That adds a lot of complications to businesses now, having to clean them more often and have dispensers and things like that. So something that if the city or tourism more saw fit as something to place an order for those and to work with DPW to get them situated would make more sense than an individual business or even the business coalition taking on. And the last thing was, I think we need to work to attract, one-day visitors and overnight visitors. So a more regional campaign that would be a combination of radio and print and digital that would both on weekend visitors, and we had talked about, also trying to get people midweek when it's not as crowded and people might feel more comfortable going to a restaurant or going into a store when there's not as many people. And whether that, I think whether that's a grant or to the HBC or to someone else, I think, it also would take, which may be easier because I think if the tourism board were to hire an agency to help design those ads, it might have to go through an RFP process, which might be longer versus if you were to grant the money to another agency. Order of magnitude, I looked back, our Design Hudson advertising budgets run around $10,000 and our Hudson for the Holiday budgets run around $8,000. So just as comparison of sort of, advertising for a specific time period. So that's the things that we had come up with. As we discussed, us as individual business owners didn't really see a way for us to submit proposals for projects. We saw more doing it from the coalition standpoint. So I don't know if anybody other on the coalition wanted to chime in on that.
I see Jonah's hand is up.
Oh, just briefly, I don't know if others also were waiting, so I wouldn't want to overstep, but Chuck, that was a brilliant and articulate update. I feel very allied with what you just said, and your arrival on these calls has been extraordinary so far. A lot of the dialogue on various committees has been about alignment between tourism, the small business sector and coalition, and the arts. So, please receive my enthusiasm as an ally of everything that you just said. There are a few theories of membership, but I do fall, I hear what you're saying. I completely hear what you're saying. Our organization has many chapters. Some facilities have membership if they're receiving like subsidized services, but like the Hudson Eye is member free. So we actually sort of straddle both, if it's okay to say that, and we try to stay kind of amphibious on that. But I'm just kind of clicking the applause icon here. So.
Yeah, I mean, the Business Coalition does serve the entire business community. But we do, the membership really is just a tier as to where you what type of benefit, if you benefit from the whole thing, or we do paid members, do get the benefit of being able to post on the website and things like that more frequently than a quote unquote non-member. But that was the fact that we're really self-funding this. We're not getting any, the only way of funding it is businesses chipping in. So we try to create an incentive structure for businesses to chip in. But to the extent that we're able to separate that funding from the need to get it from individual businesses, then we can be much more egalitarian and make the site and everything we do equal for everybody to participate in at an equal level. So.
Great. Did anybody else from HBC want to, Chuck had invited you to chime in and add to that if you'd like to. Anybody?
Yeah, I'd like to. I don't know how to raise my hand on this thing, so I apologize for not knowing how that symbol works or where it is.
We're just trying to see, like, if somebody raises their hand, we're trying to call on them. We're not always eloquent about it. So you've got the mic, Chris.
And I apologize if my internet connection seems to be a bit spotty. No, I just wanted to reiterate what Chuck was saying, is that we felt from the HBC that the RFP made a lot of sense for an organization such as HBC or Hudson Hall or Jonas or others. Didn't quite make sense for individual business. It doesn't really align with what an individual business might propose or want to do. So I know that may have been initial thinking for the tourism board, but I think that said, what would really help out businesses, given that, is the tourism board helping the funding of the PPE, which is tremendous because every business has to go out and get, the face masks and the sanitizer and whatever else that's required. So if there is a way for the tourism board to work with Hudson Hall in this case, since they have done the legwork, as Chuck mentioned, to give a financial relief to the businesses. We understand that the tourism board in the city can't put, cash in an envelope and hand it out, but that is a way to do it so that there is economic relief without giving it directly to the businesses. It just means we're not spending that money that we don't have, from wherever the sources are to get the PPE. So that's, I think, be a great benefit. Another one that Chuck mentioned, I'd love to reiterate is, we know there are proposals out there about, closing Warren Street or other such things. It's really important that there are services for people who are visiting Hudson so that the burden isn't on the stores who are open and have to really manage how many people come into the store to then also have to manage a restroom or other services that with restaurants, indoor dining closed and cafes as well, the burden will probably shift most likely to stores, which really isn't feasible either. So if the city could really step in and organize that, that's, an immediate need as stores are reopened, this week. So again, like seating areas, restrooms, I don't know if there are opportunity for PPE stations or every so often. Again, I'm not sure how that works with DPW or the city itself, but that would be a tremendous relief in an indirect way to the businesses. That is right up tourism's alley because that is benefit tourism. It's people visiting the town, whether they're here for an hour, for a week, or for a month. So that makes a lot of sense. And that would be, again, an appropriate use of those funds to benefit locals, tourism, everybody.
Great point.
We've seen, I think at the farmer's market, they have little stations where you can wash your hands with soap, water, like sort of portable sinks around. So, I mean, that's another way that things can stay healthy.
And you're basically saying that's something that the tourism board could help with.
Yeah, we're thinking of that as one aspect of greeting folks into town.
Yeah.
Make it seem like, well, we've really thought about all this. We're making you feel welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it would kind of take the burden off the individual businesses to provide that, because at this point we have to provide for whoever walks up to our doorstep.
Can I say something really fast? Or two things. First of all, I do just want to listen, but I just wanted to float something since we have all these business owners here. I have been talking to Peter Spear just about the ways that our public space and our our collective spaces are being used so much more now, and trying to come up with a way of thinking about the tourism board as stepping in to care for that space, for the commons a little bit more. Does that make sense as a way of thinking about it to all of you guys? I love this thinking of us stepping in to help inhabit and support the public space so that it doesn't fall on businesses. If we talked about it in terms of common space or public space or open space and us really, really working to create infrastructure in that space, does that resonate? Does that sound useful?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. From my point of view, that is really the responsibility of the city, especially in this situation. And so tourism board, again, it's a welcoming people to town, whether they're from, Rhinebeck or from, London. Maybe not London, but it's really the welcome to town. So anything that falls under that umbrella, literally and also, figuratively, it would make a lot of sense. And that would also, again, the beautification of the town is tourism. So if that means, setting up the common spaces to just be more, accommodating and welcoming, signage, the PPE or mask or whatever, if there's a station, a hand washing station, all of that I think is, really justified.
That's awesome. The other thing I wanted to say was just to respond to whether or not, or the ways that businesses will be able to apply for any of the funds, specifically through the request for grant proposals that we just put out. We've been talking a lot about making sure that we are doing community outreach to every community in Hudson to help them, work through that process, if it also makes sense, in addition to this other stuff, to apply for a grant through that. And that definitely includes the business community. So I think that we're talking about engaging community liaisons to work with different communities and help them see how they could apply for that. And I know that we all really want to make sure that we work with businesses to come up with ways that, just kind of talk through the grant and come up with examples of projects that would be easy and exciting for businesses to do too. And I know that wasn't immediately obvious to businesses who first read it through, and I totally hear that. There are so many other ways that we can and want to support the business community. But additionally, just so you know, we are going to make sure that we reach out and come up, and really support businesses who do want to work through that process, because I could see a billion different projects that businesses would be able to do that would work under that too. I'm going to not
comment on that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to take over the thing, but actually, I think some of the concerns, and I'll just speak for myself though, is the reason why, from my point of view, it doesn't work, the RFP for a specific business, is that we're all jumping through hoops to apply for grants and PPP, and the SBA loans, et cetera. So to do the RFP for the potential grant money for this, basically you're asking me as a business to invent a project that's going to cost me money to do, to ask for potential money as reimbursement. Makes no sense at all. I don't have the bandwidth. We filled out no forms as it is. It just doesn't make sense for me to spend money with the hopes of getting money back in. But I think for organizations, it makes a lot of sense. So whether you're Basilica, Hudson Hall, or Jonas, or HBC, it makes a lot of sense because there are projects that you can do and ask to be funded for. But as an individual business, I mean, if I do, I don't know, I'm a photographer as well. If I do a photo exhibit, it's going to cost me a few $1,000s to print and frame photos. Why would I do that? So, all of our business people are really worried about and wondering how to set up their businesses. So that's why, the PPE intervention financing funding that the tourism board can do makes a lot of sense without an RFP. It should just be done. That makes a lot of sense. And that's an immediate relief for businesses that you don't have to jump through hoops for. So I think that's kind of the basic ideas. We're kind of not interested in jumping through more hoops right now. That's kind of my point of view.
I totally hear you.
That's very valid. Mary Yvonne has her hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say, and also, as per Chuck's explanation of all the things that the HBC has done, it would be really great to feel like the tourism board wanted to get behind those efforts, because as Chuck was saying, it'd be wonderful if everybody could be a member, and that it wasn't based on, the efficacy of our projects wasn't based on people having to pay money to be a part of it. If everyone could just be a member of the HBC and there could be money to do these things like the walking guide, people love the walking guide. I mean, it's such a simple little book, but it makes visitors so happy. I give out so many of them in my shop. The website really needs help. It needs an update. All the efforts that we've been putting time and energy into over the years, it would be really nice to know that the tourism board supported all of those and wanted to help us make it happen easier.
No, that's very valid. That's very valid. And just so everybody knows, the tourism board absolutely hears you on individual businesses. I mean, we have explored every option. We started with wanting to literally go down and start handing money out. We can't do that. So this feedback's really important for us. If you tell us what you need, that gives us your chance to go back and make the request and work to make it happen. So that's great.
So Chris, I just want to be clear, are we talking about like maybe another way for the business community to benefit from the tourism board? Like a different paradigm?
I can't speak on behalf of all of the tourism board, but what I'm hearing and the way I'm interpreting this is that the RFP is out, and that's great. And now we need to look beyond the RFP to what the tourism board could potentially do to fund all of these projects that you've laid out today, which I
Agreed. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that's, I just wanted to,
No, we're not pushing you into the frame of RFP. We're thinking beyond that now.
Yeah. I think Kristen had a hand up.
Oh, sorry. As a veteran tourism board member, do we know what our options are for other ways to be able to pay things out? I should know, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, we can certainly, like, the stuff that has come up so far, in terms of like buying, like the contributing the PPE stuff makes, I think, I'm not speaking legally, but as far as my understanding of the law is that everything that has come up so far would be fundable. I don't know about I personally love the idea of supporting universal HBC membership. I don't know whether that's legal. Cheryl can tell us, but like the tourism board can do anything in its mind, will work to promote Hudson as an exciting destination. So I think like contributing spending money on stuff in infrastructure in public spaces, porta potties, sinks, equipment, all this stuff to make Hudson safer and remove some of that onus from private businesses is totally fundable as far as I understand things. And anything that makes sense to us and is for a concrete thing is fundable. And like everything that we have talked about up until this moment was like, as soon as this RFP is out and behind us, we want to start working on these partnerships and like exactly what everybody is saying in this meeting they want is what we're saying. We've been saying like, we really want to do this. So I think handing out money is not something we could do. A different grant, it's been so hard to get this grant thing in place because it's a tough thing for cities to do grants. But I think spending money on concrete things that our community in general really needs and helping to form a broad kind of network of support for the city and its businesses is like exactly what we can do, I think.
And I think an action item for us following this, I think an action item for the tourism board members is to actively explore what Kristen just asked, like what is the process? What can we do? What are our limitations? And I think we can find that out pretty quickly so we're not stalled in helping.
I have another comment. I just want to piggyback what Chuck said earlier is the whole promotion. So I think Chuck mentioned Hudson Bonds, which is a great way because for those who don't know, it's really a way to get people back into town and spend. So that directly helps out people, businesses. But also just promoting, Hudson is open, whatever the language is around that for so people from the next town over or from, downstate or wherever they're from for a draw, again, you can focus on midweek if you like, which is fantastic for all of us. It can be really kind of tailored to whatever the messaging needs to be, but to let people know that Hudson's open is exciting and has, shops and restaurants, blah, blah, blah. And, it's a welcoming town. So yeah, come welcome to Hudson, wear a mask and have fun. But just a general promotion of Hudson, advertising would be always welcome and always a benefit.
That sounds excellent. Jane Trombley, I think you had something you wanted to say. You're on mute, Jane. Jane?
Well, I'll add something, Chris. I'm also the chairman of the Economic Development Committee, and provided, I think a lot of these ideas in one way or another may overlap with the Economic Development Committee. I'm sure that there's some room to address some of the topics mentioned tonight. And Jane is also a member of that board.
Can I jump in now? I'm sorry, I had a muting malfunction, but I think I'm
You're on now. The
I'm
stage-
on. Oh, okay, if I can take the stage for a sec. I'm going to wear a little different hat for the next minute, but I'd like to let everybody know, since PPE has come up in the conversation this afternoon, that Perfect 10 After School, who you know has been making masks like a house of fire, has made themselves available to make masks that are in sealed little Ziploc bags with their card with a Hudson Safe button in. It's a very tidy little package. I have volunteered to be kind of their liaison with the business community. So if people want to contact me, businesses want to contact me, I can get you a starter set of about 25 masks. The quid pro quo is Perfect 10 is asking that you all place a donation jar by your cash register or someplace that's evident, so folks can make contributions. But apart from that, the charming masks that they've been producing are free, and because they're in these little Ziplocs, they have not been handled by a million people, and so there's a sense of cleanliness and sort of they haven't been handled 100 times. So please email me at my City of Hudson, or if any of you know my regular email, City of Hudson's fine. Let me know if you're interested and I'll make the connection and get you the masks. And then I would come around and manage the collection. So that sounds like something you'd like to participate in, then let me know.
Jane, this is Chuck. When Hudson Hall sent out their order form, are in the email, they included that what Perfect 10 is doing, and did say to contact you, but you may want to contact Tammy or Sage directly, because it's interesting to know that they have like maybe some more information could be included, but they did include something about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you, Chuck. I'll be in touch with them. I wasn't aware of that. I've just been working with Whitney Wilkins, and so I know a couple of. Actually, I take that back. I do know Hudson Hall has had masks available to the public, as has Verdigris. So they were sort of the early adopters of this. But I'll definitely circle back. Thanks for that hint.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Eric DeFeo.
I just have a question as like a participator in like going to stores and everything. Is there going to be, I feel like it would be helpful to have like coalitions of every sector and just like a cohesive messaging, maybe signage on the doors, or just so like people know how to interact with the store. Like, do I go like okay, you need a mask to go in this store, or like, because I just see people like, some are wearing masks, some are not wearing masks. It just like seems like there's no leadership like federally, and therefore trickling down locally on how we're supposed to interact with each other. So like if restaurants have like a clear message, like this is how you're gonna come into my restaurant, like, you know, it's like simple, just like having like signs.
Yeah, I would say personally, trying to open a store now, reopen a store, there are guidelines that the state has for every sector. So as a sector opens, they have all these guidelines that are somewhat difficult to interpret or left open to interpretation of what they mean. But signage and all of that is part of it. And I think it's a matter of kind of everybody figuring it out a little bit, and what works for their space. But I think over time you will start seeing that signage, and I know I'm working on it. So when people come into Valley Variety, they'll know, you know, universal things like you have to wear a mask, but also, you know, where hand sanitizers are, where to stand if you want to pay, things like that. But every space is so different, and the rules kind of guide how you do your space. The challenge a little bit.
Can speak a little bit more just information wise, is that a lot of the restaurants in the area, Kristen also, we have been having meetings at a different time where we check in with each other about what our plans are and what our standards are. We don't have anything official in place, but we have been having our own unofficial conversations as restaurants about what our rollout procedures will look like.
Great. Yeah, I think that would be helpful for visitors, just to, so everybody's like on the same page.
Hey, Eric, were you thinking of something that would be official from Hudson, so it was uniform, so people coming to town would say, wow, this town's got its act together? Or were you thinking more of just guidelines for each restaurant to do it themselves, or not even just restaurant, but sector?
I think it'd be nice if like the tourism board kind of led it, or like, you know, work symbiotically to come up with the structure. But, you know, I saw Allison Matheny, she was creating this campaign for Hudson Safe, and maybe work with her on building that out. So like, there's like a graphic on every store, like, hey, wait, if you see more than 10 people in here, you know, you can't come in, you know. People really need explicit direction, because like, you know, it's otherwise it's pretty tricky to manage. You may as well just be pretty explicit about it, I think.
Can I say something?
Please.
If something gets developed, it should be small, because many of the buildings are old buildings and they don't have vast windows. Some do, but many don't. So just a small, just a little insignia that says, you know, you have to wear a mask, or, you know, I don't know. Just a
Yeah,
recommendation.
or some stores are putting like dots on the ground, or just like spacing, like this is 6 feet.
Are people digging what Peter and Jonathan did with Allison, the Hudson Safe? Like, I think those signs are so beautiful. Are you guys liking them?
Yeah, they're just big, you know? So, I mean, I asked for one of the little yellow mask ones, which I don't know, I didn't get it yet, but, you know, I've just been developing my own signage for the front, but I wouldn't mind if it was all the same for all of us. That would be great, you know? But I mean, I find I'm having to just figure out what my instructions are for my customers, you know? Like, I can't allow more than 6 people in the store at once right now, please wait, or, you know, whatever it is. I'm just gonna post all this stuff on the front, so.
Certainly a little sign that says, you know, you have to wear a mask. Should just be a simple little thing that everyone has, and it's just popped in the window and tiny, and people will begin to recognize it and, you know, thread the needle with the whole thing. But
right.
Yeah, to Eric's point, and to Chris's point too, it would be so wonderful if there was a unified city graphic messaging. It is shifting though, the guidelines, so it's a little tricky. Like, I know that some of the posters that that were done, Peter and company, you know, with the headline "Stay Home," that's, you know, very April, as Peg put it, I think. So that doesn't quite work when you're reopening stores and restaurants. But the messaging with it, wearing the mask and things like that, we've developed our own signage because we have an old door with a whole bunch of window panes, so we can't do a poster. Also, we wanted, also to fit into our aesthetic, but we did our own signage, our own window graphics, and obviously then signage has to happen for state law, I suppose, for indoors as well. So there is no one sign other than the mask and social distancing, I suppose, in terms of how many people go into any given store or restaurant. It depends on your space. So it is tricky to come up with one universal thing, but I think it would be wonderful. Welcome to Hudson, have fun, wear a mask, full stop. Then every store will have to have its adaptation of the phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and however many phases there are from there, because it is shifting.
Yeah, it would be nice if it had sort of a tone of welcoming.
Yes, that would be great.
That's great. Wheeler, did you had a question, you said?
Yeah, it might be kind of pivoting a little bit, but I just have a question because when I saw the email about meeting, I was interested in attending because it was the tourism board asking what businesses need right now and wanting to receive
nigger
say. And My question is just, I noticed that it was at the same time as a Black Lives Matter protest in Catskill, which was also happening at 5 p.m. this afternoon.
Yeah.
And I think that my question for the tourism board is, given that Hudson has become incredibly gentrified, and like I've been a part of it, we've all been a part of it, us having businesses here, us contributing to what was predominantly a Black community before we all arrived. There's, I think, like 2 Black people on this call, and there's 22 people on this call. And knowing that the tourism board is largely funded by the lodging tax, I think, on Airbnb properties, which is also a huge contributor to gentrification. I know it's important to look about like what we can do to open up this town after COVID. I think that's super important. I'm not trying to take away from that. I would just, and maybe this isn't the meeting to talk about exact measures, but I think I would like to request a meeting for the tourism board to talk about what they're planning on doing to either give reparations or like give back to the Black community what we all have slowly taken over years and years and years and years and years. And yeah, that's my question.
So this forum is open to all questions, so that is most welcome. And I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but I for one would be interested in having that conversation. We don't have to have it right now, but yeah, it's an important conversation that we should have, and it's something that I would suggest the other.
There's a spam
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, get him on.
Yeah, get him off.
Oh, what's up, boys? How's it going?
Oh,
Hello, tourism board. What's up?
My goodness. That's the first for me.
First time it's happened to me too.
I didn't even know this was possible. Wow.
Jonah had his hand up. Jonah, did you want to say something?
He disappeared.
But Wheeler, we heard you. That was that you just got spammed. But I'm really glad that I want you to know that we are listening.
I think one thing that I was thinking about was creating some type of infrastructure to help incubate and foster Black-owned businesses and Black-run projects in general. My friend Shanika has been compiling a list of Hudson Valley businesses and trades that are run by Black people, and she was seeing that most of them are like just Facebook pages and like working with a web developer to help make websites for people. I know that Lil Deb's Oasis really benefited from the help of our banker Anita at KeyBank, and also Charlene Chai, who really helped us learn how to like read our finances. And then also I know that real estate is something that is often gatekept and like a huge part of this, and working with real estate agents that aren't biased, that could help people find places to have their businesses. And it doesn't have to just be on Warren Street. It could, I don't know, but that's what we were talking about, is like some type of, I think that it is in the tourism board's interest to contribute to this.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yes.
It is also something that the HPC, in our first meeting in January, before all of our attention shifted, was sort of creating the idea of an incubator space, more geared towards retail or maker, that trying to find a space where you could help start a business and have, sort of figure out how to run a retail business or a maker business. And that was something that we had on our agenda for this year, and then it kind of now has. But would like to come back to that as well.
One
Yeah,
thought just
I'm working
about-
on that for
Yeah,
anybody.
I'm curious about that.
Sorry, go ahead, Hannah.
Well, one thought just to bounce off of that is that there probably will be a lot more than there have been abandoned or empty storefronts after this whole thing happens. So that's kind of a good place to have, like, to use as incubation, you know, so different smaller businesses could try it out. Maybe it's not like a long-term lease sort of thing, but it would help out the building owners and these small businesses.
And I think,
and fill up Warren Street, you know, which is vital and fruitful for tourists.
and I think also it's making sure, like, using programs that are already in existence. So kind of like Chuck was talking about, like the Hudson Business Coalition has already been thinking about an incubator. I know that like Lauren Jambrone from Good Fight Herb Co. and Antoine, who does the Sparrowbush bread, they both took business classes at the Chamber of Commerce. And so I know that those classes are already in existence. So I don't think it's necessarily building this from the ground up, but whatever ends up being decided can also utilize the tools that are already there. Like, our business was really helped by our banker pointing us towards like different SBA resources. And I think part of it would just be like connecting and being there for support, you know?
Yeah, I'm launching an incubator this summer. It's going to be 10 weeks, a free program for anybody who's interested, and been talking to a lot of key stakeholders also in Hudson. And yeah, like Stella at Hudson River Exchange, they're also trying to figure out, a few people want to come together and create like a retail, you know, coalition and figure out things like that. So that's what we're here for, and incubate businesses as well that are, you know, women-owned and owned by people of color as well. So that's really important.
Or do you have something that you, website or something that shows?
Yeah, I'll type it in. Yeah, we have 8 companies this summer. I don't want to do like too much self-promotion, but it's free.
Yeah, no,
and
really.
yeah, they're all like social impact. There's real estate. We have a healthcare company. There's all different. Some people are NACN stage. Some people have revenue. But we're going to go through the whole pitch deck, and at the end, we'll have a pitch night with a bunch of investors and people who want to invest in the Hudson community. You know, you don't necessarily need to be raising money. Maybe you're looking for more clients, but you can find all of our information at HudsonIncubator.com. But yeah, I didn't want to recreate the wheel, but I did feel that Hudson did need an incubator.
Totally. Sorry, Calvin, go.
Oh, no, feel free. I was just agreeing. This is wonderful.
My other question is wondering if the Hudson Tourism Board would be able to issue some kind of statement acknowledging like how gentrification has worked in Hudson and what they're committed to doing. I think that it could be really impactful because we're not having the like full militarized police presence that other places are having. But I think a huge way that Hudson needs to be accountable for their role in this is what has happened. And I think that if the tourism board felt they would want to take a leadership position in that, I think it could maybe help other towns that have been gentrified in a similar way know that like it doesn't mean like pack up and go. It just means like, how do we make this better?
An opportunity to unite. Yeah.
I think this is a big topic. Could I speak, Chris?
Of course.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say my word for the Old Shiloh Church, which hopefully will be landmarked. And I was thinking that that could be an anchor for Lower Columbia Street. So that, and little businesses could if they opened around there, it's just 1 block from Warren. And I think it, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I know Chris has been thinking a lot about how people can get businesses going that are people of color who have a lot to offer and different things to offer, because I think it would be a huge draw for tourists. I really do. I think tourists would love it if we had more little shops and things off Warren to kind of explore. And the old Shiloh Baptist Church is so beautiful, and its history is so incredible that I think it could be a real anchor for our new commitment to the African American community, which I think really is important.
Does everybody know what the old Shiloh Baptist Church is? It's
The one just west of 3rd.
Second. It's right. Yeah, if you have verdigris and you just walk toward Columbia and then you turn left, it's there. It's sort of set back a little.
Yeah, I love that church.
Yeah, it's a fact. It's up for landmarking. So if it gets landmarked, it will be saved.
Right.
And this was, as I understand it, this was the first church that the Black community built in Hudson. Is that correct?
Well, they built it themselves.
Right. It must have been one of the first churches in Hudson, but it plays a particular importance to Black history.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's so important. So anyway, also I think its history is filled with joy. Lots of wonderful programs and open during the Depression. It was open every single day. For
wow.
Community. Yeah, and they always, they had suppers, they had singing, they had every day. It was a bright light in a dark time.
Hmm.
I think my only other question of the tourism board is that when and if this does happen, to figure out a way that the people who are working with these Black entrepreneurs are also Black, like figuring out a way to help the program be led not just by people with like white savior complexes, because I don't think that would ultimately be sustainable also. Just
great idea.
Wheeler, you're the best.
I agree. Defer to other people. I'm just organizing it.
But that was a great idea about the Baptist church, Sydney. That's great.
I think so. I think it's a real a passion of mine, but I think it's like it has a lot to offer, and I think it could be really important to Hudson. It is really important to Hudson, but I think it could be even more of a magnet for lots of activities.
I mean, I grew up in Napa, California, and it's interesting. I was thinking about how they responded to the recession. And one of the things that helped revitalize like tourist presence in Napa, especially day tourism, was they started this thing called the Oxbow Market. And it was like it was in a kind of warehouse similar to Basilica, honestly. But there were all these little like kiosks, and it was like retail, food, beverage, like everything, and everybody had their own little kiosk, and that was just a destination in itself for day.
It's a great idea.
I think Aaron had a hand up.
Yeah, hi. So I had an idea in regard to the usage of the church, and once it gets cited as a historic landmark, there's something that can be done quite similarly in the vein of an organization called Project Row Houses in Houston. I'm going to share a link with everyone here quickly. Of course, where's the map? Anyway, so this organization, there you go, I just shared it with everyone. This organization has taken a historic site. It's a number of houses in an area of downtown Houston. And each of these spaces is a different art installation area, gallery space. It's a nonprofit. You know, what I could see this church being used for is quite honestly the same thing. You know, once it gets marked as a historic landmark, a nonprofit could then occupy that space and put on programmatic events or have regular installations, or, you know, and have it be a space where artists of color, artists of diverse backgrounds could then have a platform to show their work or give performance and media installations and things. I think in that capacity, what then could happen is fundraising for the rehab of the building could be made. And then from there, ultimately, you know, it could, whatever organization occupies that space or is leading the charge on that rehab could then submit to these RFPs and whatnot for additional funding, state grants, things like that. Once it's a historic landmark or historic site, then it's open to state and federal funds. So that's just anecdote, side anecdote. But I was, you know, I've made a couple of notes here throughout the conversation. I've been mostly listening. You know, thinking about the day trippers and the overnighters, and something that I kind of keep going back to, aside from, you know, people coming up to eat or go hiking, you know, a lot of day trippers and overnighters will look to destination programming or destination programs, exhibitions, performances, installations. And I often cite Carol Walker's Domino Sugar Factory installation.
Yeah.
Things that came from all over the world and went and saw that exhibition and traveled near and far just simply to go see that specific installation, that specific piece. So I think that there's some merit here in a public art initiative, or merit in some work ultimately that brings people into the city simply for a day or an afternoon or an evening to experience and be part of the fabric of the cultural elements of Hudson as a whole. Whether it be the Hudson-based artists or artists that are inspired by Hudson, or spending their first time in Hudson or exhibiting for the first time in Hudson.
Is the Shiloh Church actively working on landmarking?
Oh, yes, Peg. I think it will be in 30 days. I think it will be. They'll make it. Yeah. But the woman who owns it says that if it's landmarked, she's going to sell it. So, you know, its future is a little bit undecided, but I am sure it's going to do well. You know, if she sells it, she wanted to use it as a wedding venue, but, you know, weddings in a small place now, it's a little, you know, she's having some economic financial problems, but she was adamant that she didn't want it landmarked, but I think it will be landmarked. And then, you know, we'll see if she does sell it.
You have her contact information?
I have some of it. I know her name and where she's registered. I think she registered it as an LLC, but her name is Victoria Milne, M-I-L-N-E.
Thank you.
I think I can get more too from one of my cohorts, colleagues.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sydney.
Welcome here.
All right. Is there anybody else who wants to give feedback, talk, make comments?
Yes.
Did someone say something?
You did.
Oh, Sydney? Yes.
I think we had so many good ideas, and what I think is if, for example, if Wheeler would be a, you know, sort of a point person for the gentrification and the church, and Aaron too with the church, and we could get, and then with you know, with Chuck for the HBC, which I think if it's not a member, you know, if it's not a membership, if everybody can join, then, you know, if he could list the program so that we can organize some of this information, because it's so good. and see where it sort of falls.
Right. So in other words, so tonight we're getting a lot of ideas, but I think Sydney, you're driving at our task should be to come back with some action items and suggestions on how we've listened. So now we've got to go back, digest, and then come up with a plan on how to provide PPE, decide on advertising, decide on what we do in gentrification, and yeah.
And get input from Chuck, because he has a lot of, he has a lot of things already thought out, and everybody does who spoke, so that, they could just contact us, or, in some kind of, I wouldn't say, maybe a kind of proposal, actually, of what they want and how it would be carried out, be useful to, just have everything kind of gathered together.
So like a follow-up email of what we discussed, but in email ask form.
Right, something like that. And then ideas of how to go forward.
That sounds great.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Sydney, I think we can pull that together as well.
Good, yeah, I'm sure.
This call started, this is Alex Petralia. This call started with the announcement that the RFP would be launching tomorrow. I'm sure it will include more information on the application process itself, but for the tourism board leaders who are on this call, can you talk a little bit more about how the timing will work? I know on previous calls, you talked about having it on a rolling basis so that it would coincide with the Common Council meetings. Could you, Calvin or Chris, whoever else wants to sort of chime in, for anybody who does want to apply, talk about what the actual process and evaluation will be like?
Tamar, I think Tamar should maybe do this.
Tamar, would you mind chiming in?
No, not at all. So the first, we are committing to doing it for 2 rounds, and then, we'll kind of see how it's going. We're hoping it goes really well. The first deadline is June 26th, which is the last Friday of June. And we, the tourism board has to have a conversation about the judging process, which we are going to do imminently. But we will have our recommendations to the Common Council by the informal meeting, which is the first Monday of July. And they will have a week to look at those recommendations, and then they'll vote on them the following Tuesday, which is the formal meeting. And at that point, 50% of the grant funding requested will be given immediately to the grantee as a payment, essentially, for the plan. The application asks you to state what you're going to do and why, and it gives you an opportunity to really explain the project. And so because of that, we're able to give 50% of the money up front. And then the next 50% is reimbursable. That's true for short and long-term grants. There is a stipulation for community organizations that can't afford to do the 50-50 split and have a grant proposal of under $2,500. And there's a limited number of those available, but they will be funded through an agreement that we have directly by, they'll be funded in a slightly different way, but that is available for some community-based organizations who just can't come through this program because the tourism board can't make grants without having the deliverable in hand, which is why we have the 50% payment for the plan, which, hopefully will really help get projects off the ground. And yeah, and we're gonna send it far and wide tomorrow, and we're gonna be,
Where can people find it tomorrow?
well, we're gonna be sending it out to every community-based organization, to the Chamber of Commerce. It'll be on the city website. It'll be on every social medium. We have a whole list, but we're gonna send it out through every network available. Hopefully get it in old-fashioned media like the newspaper and stuff too. Yeah, we have a pretty big broadcast list, and anybody who has ideas about where it should go that we don't already know should let us know. And it's being translated into Bengali and Spanish too. It just, the Spanish version I have to do, and it just kind of got finalized, so I'll work on that. And then Jabin Ahmed is working on the Bengali version. It might not be out for a week, but luckily we have 2 months. It's not, if you don't get it in 3 weeks, there's certainly another cycle, and hopefully more. Does that answer questions?
Yeah, that was great. That was very thorough, and thank you for your work and everybody else who worked on the committee to put it together. I heard some of the initial discussions on previous Zoom calls, and it sounds very thorough and very well thought out. The only one remaining question I have you given consideration to applicants being able to present in some way, either to the tourism board or to the council beyond just the written application?
I mean, there's other than this grants process, I think we are now in the wonderful position of working with all of you and working with the community at large for crafting really great partnerships between, working together on all of these ideas for how to create a Hudson that we feel really good about. So totally, we wanted to get this grant opportunity out there as a way of, projects happening. And it was partly inspired, like Michael Chimides had this idea for, some kind of a tourism grant at the same exact time as Peter Spear had directed me to this awesome thing I think it's in Newburgh, called the Department of Small Interventions, where the city just funds small interventions. The idea being to let things kind of, foment and grow and evolve. And that was the entire purpose of this, to kind of let us as a city go, we're so excited about the creativity of this entire city from every side. Let's start that project. And now, yeah, we want, everything that people said here was amazing. We want people to present. We should come up with a good process for that. But I think this has been a really, really fruitful, for me anyway, this has been so fruitful. And I think just starting to knit together all these different partnerships will make it kind of natural or organic. I hate when people say organic, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I just had one question. Would you mind repeating those deadline dates and the close date and the decision date again? My daughter was running around. I got June 26th, and then what were the following? Sorry.
June 26th is the first one. July 31st.
31st, yeah.
Is that right? It's the second one.
I think so.
And it tracks on the rest of the dates that I said track on the city council calendar. So,
okay. So June 26th is the first grant, July 31st is the second grant.
Yep.
And it's decisions made by the city council calendar then. Got it. Okay, just want to confirm.
Not the informal meeting, Aaron, but the formal meeting. The informal meeting is where we'll present the applications that we're recommending, and then the formal meeting, they'll vote.
Got it. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. So it sounds, anybody else have anything to add? Feels like we're coming to a natural conclusion.
I'll just say that I'm happy to help facilitate any sort of coalitions, like in this different sectors. That's my background. I just facilitate those sorts of communities and help organize people, map out from problem into solution. So that's what I'm here for, if you need any help with that.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, Chris, I think we can bring it to a close.
Right.
Unless there are any other final comments.
Thank you for being so receptive and welcoming me to your meeting.
No, thank you all.
Yeah, it was very wonderful.
Wonderful, indeed.
Thank you all.
For coming, and we should do these more often.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
This is my best Zoom meeting so far.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time, and you will be hearing from us, I promise.
Indeed. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice.
you. Thank you.